Hey guys, it's Danae, and I'm back again with another episode of A Millennial Voice, the show here with the Philadelphia Sunday Sun every Sunday at 2 p.m. And if y'all see my hair, I got it done recently for a shoot. So I was so hyped to have Lala on my show because I can show it off before I take it out. But so just to give you guys a little bit of a rundown about Lala, she's a singer, songwriter, actress based in New York, grew up in New York, still here, still working really hard, doing a million things. She's acting. She's been in Spike Lee films, Chris Rock. She sang background for Mariah Carey, opened up for Shawn Mendes, and just so many more things that I know we're going to cover in this episode. But I'm going to let her have the floor to talk about herself for a little bit, and then we'll get into the show. So, Lala.
Hi, my name is Lala. I mean, you kind of covered it all, girl. You did your research. So I was like,
got to.
I was like, I don't know what more I could say, but yeah, I'm born and raised in Hell's Kitchen. I've got 4 dogs, which is always like a little fun fact about me. And I'm just focusing on really content creation, singing and songwriting, performing as much as I can, modeling. I just like to have my hand in every little thing that I can get my a hold of.
Right. You sound just like me. I'm the same way. So, I mean, at the most basic, you mentioned that you have 4 dogs, but you also have this crazy, amazing, and super full career. How do you balance 4 different dogs with like singing, modeling, acting, content creation? How do you balance everything? Because dogs are a lot of work within themselves.
Yes, they are. And I said this in another interview before, but don't let the smoke and mirrors of social media and stuff fool you. I'm very, very busy, and I do definitely stay true to myself online, but there's a lot of times where I'm not working or I'm just home, and maybe it looks like more than it is. So I just try to stay balanced. My mom helps me all the time, and I've got a lot of help, but they're pretty good, and they've got each other, so they're their own pack over here. They stay calm.
Okay. So, question then about these dogs, because now I'm curious. Is it 4 dogs from like the same litter? Is it 4 separate dogs? Like, how did you end up with 4?
Yeah, I know. Well, I got 1, right? And then I was like, well, they need a friend.
Okay.
And then I was like, well, they need a friend. And then I was like, 3 is a weird number, so we'll make it even. So that's kind of how it ended up. No, but they're from all different litters, and they just love each other. They get along so well.
That's beautiful. Okay. So you mentioned your downtime, the downtime that you have as a creative, as a person who's always on the go and consistently working as much as possible. How do you occupy those spaces, that time that you are kind of doing little to nothing? And is that difficult for you as somebody who just likes to be on the go?
Yes. I think in our own personal conversation, I just mentioned, I don't like to stay stagnant, but I've also tried to do the best I can at taking that time to rest and telling myself, I'll be so grateful that I had this time later on when I'm super busy and just want to do absolutely nothing, because I tend to burn myself out a lot, and I'm working on that. And just having that time to rest and see my friends and have like a life as well. So it's all a balance, and I'm just trying to do the best I can with that.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you about just knowing the importance of the downtime, because eventually it's like things are going to get picked up and it's just going to be crazy and insane. You're going to be like, man, I wish I just had 2 seconds to sit down.
Right. So when it's happening, I just say to myself, I'm like, you will be thankful that you had this day to rest when you're so busy that you can't focus. So I'm like, okay, all right, I'm just gonna try to do nothing today, but then I end up working on my phone.
That's okay. I mean, so when I was on your website, it's like so full. Like there's a lot of things that you've done. Your resume, everything is just so full, right? And so one of the things that really struck me was that you really started your singing career in 2017, which is when your first single came out. What was your life like before that period, and how has it changed since then?
Well, I was a child actor, so I've always been doing this. I did my first off-Broadway show when I was 8, and then I landed my first Broadway show when I was 9. So this is very like true to who I am and how I've always been. But I really just, before then, well, a lot of people might not know that I used to do makeup. I was a full-time makeup artist. I worked on Vogue. I worked with Zoe Kravitz, Naomi Campbell. I worked on
Oh,
Elle, Bazaar. Yeah, and then I ended up working on Broadway as a makeup artist. I totally wanted to step out of the spotlight. I think as a child actor, you tend to burn out in that way, like really quickly, or you end up wanting to have like a normal life. Like I was homeschooled, and then I was like, I really want to just have friends. I want to go to school. I want to have a locker, like all this stuff, which turned out horrible. But that's a different story. I just ended up wanting to do something that I found myself. I got really into makeup. I watched all the YouTube tutorials. Later on, I went to school for it. I landed 2 gigs on Broadway shows doing makeup. And by the time I was 19, I was the head of the makeup department at Once on This Island, and I was subbing in and out at Kinky Boots.
wow.
And a really weird thing happened where I had this performance video from years and years ago that I wasn't performing at all at the time, but it resurfaced. It got onto a blog, Broadway.com, or website, Broadway.com and BroadwayBox.com, and they named it the like top 10 best performances of this one song. And
Wow.
someone came up to me at the theater and was like, "Congratulations!" And I was like, "On what?" And then they told me, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's the most random thing that probably could have happened," but it was all for a reason.
Yeah.
And I posted it on Facebook, and someone in the cast started sharing it around at one of the theaters, and it ended up getting to the company manager, and the company manager was like, "You should audition for this show."
Wow.
And that's how I got back into performing again, was I got an audition for the show I was doing makeup for.
Wow.
And I just fell back in love with it. And everyone was just telling me like, "Why are you backstage? You need to be on stage. You need to be doing this." And through their belief in me, I was able to create my own. And I just went at it full force, and I started writing as much as I could.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, I mean, as a child, you said that you were a bit burnt out as an actor or a performer, and I completely understand why you decided to take that, step away from the spotlight. Was it difficult for you to readjust yourself into that mindset of like a performer since you had taken so much time as a backseat? And also, was that something that was difficult for you to even take back on?
Yeah, it's a different game going from like being a child and then doing it as an adult. And
Yeah.
what I've actually found is it's a lot more supportive as an adult.
Hmm.
Uh, Being a child in it, first of all, like I don't blame kids for anything, for any behavior. I always know like it kind of comes from the parents, unfortunately. But there's a lot of stage moms, and there's a huge pressure, and it's like you have to be this height, and if you grow 1 inch or if you're this weight or whatever, it's like you're done and you're expired, or you're too old, or you won't work for a certain period because you're that awkward phase where there's no roles because they'll hire an adult instead of getting a tutor and a wrangler and all that. So there's like a bunch of things I think when you're a kid that makes it so much harder. Plus going through normal teen things like puberty and all these emotions and hormones and drama, whatever. And so as an adult, it was definitely an adjustment because I hadn't done it in so long that I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to an audition again." Like this is so scary.
Yeah.
Um, and, but I found that, the people that I actually, when I was auditioning, the
Mhm.
person I was replacing was a really good friend of mine. And
Wow.
she was so supportive and taught me like the dances and helped me with the script and was like, "This is what they want," and coached me. And I was like, this would have never happened as a kid because I know the parents would have stepped in and been like, "Don't do that."
Yeah.
And so I found that like, I don't know, people really like take you under their wing as an adult.
Wow. I mean, wow. That's so much because like I never thought about the idea of like being in it as a child because I was not a child star at all. And then leaving it and coming back. So that journey is really interesting to me. And I wanted to pick out the fact that you use the word expired when it comes to younger talent. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that that's something that people don't typically think about as it pertains to actors. Like we talk about the in-between phase of let's say like singers, for example. I know like Usher is one person who's talked about his experience and how that in between was hard for him because his voice changed, but we don't really talk about that for child actors. So can you just talk a little bit more about that and if that was something that you ever personally experienced?
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky that I didn't, but I definitely like had a lot of friends, like boys I was friends with who were then turning into men, and they were like shaving and their voice was changing, like you said, and like then not being able to hit the notes that they were required to hit when they were a kid. Or I know like a lot of the times, like young girls will understudy. Like when I was on Broadway, we had me, I was the girl, and then a boy, and then a girl as an understudy because she can play both, and she was flat chested, and it was like she had a high voice, so like no matter where the boy was, she could play both.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start to develop, then it's like harder to do that, and so there's definitely a time limit on these things. And I know a super sad story about this one kid, and thank God he's doing a lot better now. But I remember he got a Broadway show right before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, and the show's now coming back to Broadway, but now he's too old for the role. And it's like, I don't want to say that, I don't like using the word for other people. I was personally saying expired because that's a horrible thing, but you can definitely feel like that very easily. Like you're replaceable, or like there's someone younger coming in next. And I think that starts the whole thing of feeling like you're old at a very young age.
Wow. I mean, so it makes a lot of sense that, your experience in acting and things like that really would have been like kind of an impetus behind your singing career and how they tie together. And I watched some of your music videos and I saw how creative they are. Would you say that you take your background as an actress and implement that into your singing career? And if so, how has that aided your career?
I have always felt like music was just an emotion that I wanted to convey, that it was a story that I was telling. And I did grow up in musical theater, so I think that made it pretty easy because every time you were singing, you were telling the story, you were acting.
Right.
So I've carried that on, and I think people get that when they see me on stage. They feel something, and that's like my biggest goal always. So I definitely combine the two.
Okay. So one of the things that you mentioned before we started talking was that you prefer to kind of just sing and not necessarily, get into the whole minutia of the talking and all that stuff like that. So would it be fair to say that you're a bit more introverted than extroverted?
I think it's fair to say that I'm an outgoing introvert. I've been doing a lot of thinking about that, and it's hard. Like, I mean, you're different around different people, right? Like I'm going to be different around my closest friends or my family than I am around a stranger.
Mhm.
Or, it depends on the day too, is it that time of the month? Is it like, do I feel okay? Did something
Right.
just happen to me?
Yeah.
I think it varies, and I think day to day it's different. And in your situation, how comfortable you feel.
Right. Okay. So with that being said, as a person who's like, it kind of varies, my mood varies from day to day. What is the stage like for you? Is that always kind of like a safe haven where you could just fully be yourself? Or is there some days where you get there and you're like, I'm not really feeling it, but I'm going to perform, or I'm really feeling it and I'm going to perform? Like, what is that experience like?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, I don't know if it was because of like the pandemic and it was like my first show back, but I had this amazing opportunity to open for Dermot Kennedy um, on his tour. And that was like my first performance back. And my performance before that was like for a crowd of maybe 20, 40 people.
Okay.
And then this one was 6,000.
Yeah.
And it was like a very, very like spur of the moment kind of like spontaneous thing that just happened. And so for that, I was so, so nervous. Like I was freaking out, like to the point where I felt not well. And then I was like, I can't do it. Cancel the show. I'm not coming. And I was like, no, I have to. I pushed myself. And I just get on stage and I feel fine.
Okay.
I just totally feel fine. So, but then I had like a solo show that I put together and I was super prepared for that. And I felt like really, really good. And I wasn't nervous at all before, after, during at all. So, I mean, again, I don't want to be like, oh, it depends on the day, but I think that it's always the before that can get a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But then once I'm up there, it's just home to me.
Right. I feel the same way about public speaking too,
Right.
like it's like before I'm prepping a speech or something, or I'm prepping to talk to on a panel or something like that. And initially it's like super nerve wracking. I'm like, am I going to remember? How am I going to come off? And then I get on stage and I definitely feel very just like centered and all that. So I'm great to hear that you have a similar experience, because sometimes I'm like, what's wrong with me? I'm freaking out before this. And then like I get there and I see all the people, which I mean, you would think would be the most nerve-wracking point, but I see all the people and it's like somehow it's making me feel so comfortable. So I'm glad that we share that, because I feel like sometimes I feel crazy when I say that, but okay.
And I what's helped me a lot too, and I've said this before, but anxiety and excitement are the same feeling. So you just gotta in your mind and be like, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to go out there. I'm not nervous. I'm so excited. But
Yeah.
also forgive yourself if you're nervous. Like that's a huge deal. You know, all of that. Public speaking is just as hard as performing, and it is performance in a way. So yeah, I think as long as you can change that in your mind.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna have to think about that. I'll remember that. And I think that's a really good tip for the people who are watching as well. But so my next question kind of ties directly into what we were just talking about. So you've gone from medium-sized stages to big stages, and then recently you were featured in Rolling Stone for a very intimate stage that you've created yourself. You have the Rooftop series, which you started a couple years ago, it seems, right?
I actually just started that maybe a few months ago.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought I saw 20. I was watching all your stuff, girl. So maybe I'm just like, oh, I saw 2019 and I just assumed. But okay. So, I mean, that's amazing. You know, you have created this really intimate stage with this really sick, like old school microphone, and you're just like belting and just singing on the roof of your building. And it's so intimate and it's so pure. What is it like having that sacred space for you versus being in like a bigger size venue? Like, do you feel more comfortable, or is it just a different feeling altogether?
You know, that's a good question because I haven't thought of it that way. It was more like I just wanted to start making as much content as I could. I wanted to start being able to sing wherever I could, and the pandemic really like hurt a lot of the theaters and all of the concert, events that were happening. So I just wanted more opportunities to sing and sing the songs that I maybe couldn't get to sing in a show because they want to hear my originals or I have a certain time limit. And it was more like freedom for me.
Mm.
But I mean, I guess it's different because, it's just me and my friend who's filming, and we just get to have fun and try different things. And there's some, let me tell you, that I didn't even release because they were too, like, we had all these ideas. We're like, oh, yes, and then I'm going to lay down and then I'm going to do this. I'm like, I can't put this out. Like, it's embarrassing. I'm like living in my, when you're like a kid and you're in the car and you're looking out the window and you're like feeling yourself. That's how I feel sometimes. So I'm like, maybe I'm a little too into it because no one's around. Maybe
Well,
it's not that good for me.
well, your passion is definitely palpable. I could feel it in the song. It was by Olivia Rod. How do I'm
Yeah.
like, I always want to say Rodrigo, but I'm like, maybe I'm wrong. But okay, so you did a cover from Olivia Rodrigo's song. And I mean, it's so impressive that you really just started this a couple months ago, like you said, and it was already picked up by Rolling Stone. What was that moment like for you? Did they reach out to you? Was it something that you just woke up to and you were like, whoa, what is going on? Like, what was that like?
That was a whirlwind. We like connected a while ago, and it just seeing that article and seeing the amazing artists that were also featured in that
Mhm.
was like amazing and such an honor. And I don't know. I just think seeing my face with like the Rolling Stone logo on their website, I was just like, I don't know. I'm still like thinking about it. And then they actually picked up another piece just about my latest song and about opening for Dermot Kennedy on his tour and stuff like that. So that was another huge thing that I was like, oh my God,
What's
it does feel like a dream. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so there's two questions that I want to ask. The first one is about your new project that's coming out that they picked up. Tell us a little bit more about that.
The one that was featured for Barriers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Barriers was a song that was written for a film that I'm actually going to be in. I booked that a while ago. And then, I've just been managing myself. I'm an independent artist, so all of my opportunities I get for me. There's no
Yeah.
one else on my team. On my acting side, I have an agent manager, but for music, it's all me. So I've just been telling people, that I want to sing either in films and be like, a Star is Born Lady Gaga kind of character where she sings and acts,
Mhm.
or that I get a feature on a soundtrack. And I've that's probably been my favorite venture that I'm about to go on because I'm just starting to pitch all my new stuff to films that I'm either doing or films that are out, and then like having a hand in kind of both sides.
Oh, wow. I mean, you have so much going on. Okay. So the second part of my question was about just the internet and how much relevance it's had in your career. You know, you said that you kind of started performing again because of the internet. Your song Black Girl Magic, you know, you had people creating these videos that were using your song in it. And now, you know, with Rolling Stone and everything like that with YouTube, can you just talk a little bit about how important the internet has been for your career and also how TikTok has kind of changed the landscape of what you do?
I'm still trying to figure out TikTok, let me tell you. I think TikTok is probably one of the best tools that could have ever happened for any creator, no matter what you do. You can find your niche, and I'm totally supportive of everyone going to TikTok and promoting themselves. I think it's the best tool that we could have had. But for me personally, I have just been, saying, okay, I have this song, like let's make a trend out of it. Let's find something where people can join it. I loved shooting my music video for Black Girl Magic. It was so fun to have.
Cute.
Oh, thank you. But it was so fun to have like all these Black women just celebrating themselves, all different types of people, all different backgrounds. It was just such a beautiful day, and I'll never ever forget that. And I wanted more people to be able to join in with it. So, for Black History Month last year, I did Black Herstory Month, and I wanted everyone to feel as good as they possibly could, make a video with my sound, and not only sing the song and spread that love, but show, it's always nice when you get dressed up and you get to like celebrate yourself and feel good and like you make your videos. And I figured, why not reach out to like all my friends or put this online and see who wants to join.
Yeah. So do you create your own treatments for these videos? Because like I said in the beginning of this interview, they're all so creative and all very unique.
Thank you. Yeah, I do. I'm very, I'm an Aries.
Me
So
too. When's your birthday?
March 31st.
You're lying.
No, it's not. Is it
No,
yours?
yes, it is. And you know what's crazy? When I was on set yesterday, I met two other people whose birthdays were March 31st as well. Wow. Crazy moment, crazy moment, crazy moment. But okay, so you're an Aries, so you're an excited, creative person.
You get it.
Yeah,
Right.
I am.
So short answer, yes. I do create all the treatments for my videos.
Okay, okay.
I love, well, first of all, I'm very involved in the creative process. It's like for those songs, it was me and my best friend writing, and we knew going in what these stories were about, how to convey it. But people have like synesthesia where they see like colors and stuff. Like whenever I hear my songs, I like close my eyes and I see a whole thing and I write it down as fast as I can. And then I find all my creatives and my people and I get them together and I'm like, okay, can we make this happen?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do it today. Okay, great. Let me call all
We're
the
gonna
people.
do it today. That is Aries energy. Very just like I
Like,
love it.
that was like the first time I also like sourced everything. Like I hired all the talent. I got the space. I got the sponsorships for the clothing and the shoes, and I got the hair people and the makeup artists, and I got everything that I needed to get done for that video. I edited it. I actually bought a computer so that I can edit. And like I just wanted to have like full control of it, and I had so much help on that video, but I really wanted it to be mine. And I think that came from, I had just had something happen with a major label where I thought something was going to really explode for me, and it didn't end up happening. But through that, I found the inspiration to make this song, to make this video, to meet so many amazing women on set. And it was just a really beautiful journey of how it came about. So I really wanted to take creative reign over pretty much everything.
Yeah. So I mean, you have, you know, friends that help you, family that help you, and a really great support system, it sounds like, which is amazing. But you like you said, you are managing yourself. And now you've kind of reached a point in your career, you know, you have the verified check and everything. You're like really popping off doing all these amazing things. What is it like for you now, knowing that you put all that hard work in, even though in the beginning it might have seemed like it was just, you know, maybe not necessarily going in the direction that you wanted it to or whatever? Like, did you feel in that moment that it was going to lead to where you are now, or were you just kind of hopeful?
You know, I've never not believed in myself. And I think that does come from my support system, my mom, my dad. I was just raised that you can do anything. And now I've learned that that's like kind of a version of like manifestation. Like I just really believe it. It's not even belief. It's like, I know it.
Just
I know. Yeah. And I also think that, I've talked to people about like what, like, when someone's like, oh, you have it, like
Mhm.
what is it?
Yeah.
It is a mix of talent and hard work. And there's an element of luck, sure, but there's like a time and your place. But I do think everything happens for a reason. And I think everybody has their season. And I think that I've just always known it was going to work out. And if it wasn't working out, I made sure it did.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've played a whole bunch of different roles in your characters and with your characters, and it seems like you play a whole bunch of different roles in your life as well. No pun intended. What is it like for you to get ready for these, individual roles for these different productions that you're under, whether it be a movie, a play, XYZ? Like, what is that like for you?
I always just try to find the truth in the characters. I try to find what I can understand about them.
Okay.
And I think every actor should also know that you end up booking the things that are most like you in some aspect.
Yeah.
And you end up playing yourself. And so I've just always tried to be as authentic, as genuine as I can. And sometimes when I don't book something, I'm like, oh, okay, that wasn't my essence. That wasn't me, but I'm sure someone else is going to fit this better. And obviously there's going to be roles that are character roles or maybe mean girls. And I hope I don't come off that way, but like, that will be fun to step into. But I think even in those villains, if you can find the heart in them or why they ended up like that, like what was their origin story, like what made them like that? And has that ever happened to me where, maybe I turned it into, okay, this hardship happened, but I'm going to do the best I can and still be a good person. Maybe that wasn't the case for them, like this alternate universe where that thing that really hurt you ended up changing how you were. Like, what would I look like if I was that? So I just try to step into it as much as I can, but with truth and honesty.
Yeah. Okay. So relatability. Okay. That's really important to you. It sounds. That's awesome. So, in terms of being relatable, and this will be my last question for you. Like I said, you put out your first debut album in 2017 and you continue to create since then. Do you find that you still resonate with the music that you created in the beginning of your career? My second part to that is that your songs are very relatable for a general audience, but do you feel that you relate to them?
Thank you. I definitely, they're all things that I've been through. So like, of course, like when you sing something, it's hard not to remember the time you wrote that. And I've even found that like my past self has given my current self or my future self advice in weird ways where I'm like, wow, I didn't realize how much that was going to mean to me now, or maybe that was what I needed to hear. Because I have this one song, Marathon, that just has aged so gracefully. It's about, when your life starts to fall apart, building that back up, but taking your time doing it. And I feel like I was almost too young to even understand that then. I was like, what is she talking about? But somehow, like now, I'm like, yes, I do feel that way. And I do agree. And I've almost like have new interpretations of what it means to me and how, and I like to see how I've grown from it. It's like reading your own diary. Like you still know that person, but you're like, you can almost look back at them and be like, oh,
yeah, oh,
you were so hurt, or you were feeling this, or I remember when I wrote that, or you were going through this. And then, in some ways when there's a nice moral of the story, like with that specific song, Marathon, or even Black Girl Magic, like sometimes I listen, I'm like, I laugh at myself, like, oh my God, I really wrote that and released it. Like, I really put that out there, but it makes me laugh. And it's like inside jokes with like a friend that's yourself. If that makes sense.
No, that makes 100% sense. And earlier in the conversation, I guess I just got off of this, but I was going to ask you if songwriting is your journal, if you journal as well, because I am a journaler. And the reason that I'm bringing this back up is really just because of what you said about how you look back on your old songs and it's kind of like, oh, like poor baby. And like, so sometimes I'll read my old journals as well. And I get the same feeling. I like to, read sometimes what I wrote on this day, maybe like 2 years ago or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually, what I've started doing is I keep a very detailed calendar. Like people would look at me and be like, are you okay? But like, I write down everything, and I always love now, like every once in a while, if something really great happens to me, or when something really great happens to me, I'll go back to that date last year and be like, wow, I
Yeah.
wasn't doing anything that day. Or like, wow, like I was like doing something random, or like, you know, I was auditioning for something and this day, like the same year I booked something, and it's like
Yeah.
cool to see that journey.
The way that's happened. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Well, Lala, that was the last question I had for you. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we depart?
I just want to thank you again. I mentioned this to you personally, but like this is such a always a challenge. I do love singing my songs, but talking is something new to me, or that I'm trying to be better at. So I appreciate just the comfortability that you bring, and your presence is very calming. So I felt really good, and yeah, thank you for having
So
me.
much. I appreciate you saying that because I feel like I like again just Aries energy. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like all over the place. But I really appreciate you saying that. And I'm just, so grateful that I was able to have you on. Me and Lala actually met on a shoot a couple months ago. And just like connected because I really liked her energy. And so I'm really, thankful and blessed that you were able to come on. And I want to tell you that you are so beautiful. You did an amazing job, like speaking about what you were passionate about. You were amazing. So I can't wait to see you talking a little bit more. And also, just sharing a little bit more of yourself with your audience. And make sure that, when you're dropping new things or you have any new things coming out, so I can plug my audience with that as well. But with that being said, Lala, again, thank you so much for being here and talking to me. And I also want to thank you guys for tuning into another episode of Millennial Voices Show. Again, I'm here every Sunday at 2 p.m. with the Philadelphia Sunday Sun on Facebook. And also, if you want to check out my articles, which I do write pretty weekly, you can check me out at www.philsun.com and just look up Danae Reed. You can also check out my colleagues as well. Or if you want the full paper in print, you can get it for $40 a year. Again, Lala, thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.